Tyler, I don't ever have to talk to you again, but I can let my systems do that for me.
Right.
Right. And that's the part that we all miss. Like I spent so much money on RedX, so much time calling 4 hours, 5 hours a day. And the people that I talk to, I'm not putting into my database. That's like a waste of life. Let's get to it. Tyler, Fenn, you're related to Curtis, I'm assuming.
I am Curtis's better looking brother.
That's what I was gonna say first, but I didn't want to offend Curtis.
Right. I don't mind offending Curtis.
I'm pretty sure you don't. And what's your role at RedX?
So I'm in charge of all revenue. So I'm in charge of the sales department, the website, all the conversion tools, and making sure that we keep selling our products.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we get into this, you guys do have an end of the year sale that I wanted to just talk about really quick.
Okay.
What is that, and what do people get?
So it's important to note, Tristan, that we don't do sales very often, and that's why this is a big deal. So we do 2 sales, and they're both right this time of year. We do Cyber Monday that we just got done with a few weeks ago, and then we do our end of year sale. And it's the week in between Christmas and New Year's. It's typically a slower week for a lot of people. That tends to be time that they're taking vacation. But this is a week that we discount our products, and we discount them pretty heavily. So people can get anything that you buy from RedX is on sale right now, and they can get up to 32% off depending on which payment plan they go with. So at least a 20% discount and up to 32 depending on how many months they pay for in advance.
Dude, that's really good, man. I like
it's huge, and it lasts the life of the account. So if they stay with us for 10 years, they stay at that discounted price as long as they're with us. So it's an amazing opportunity.
And there's the link. Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it. By the way, I just sent it to one of my coaching clients.
Nice.
I know she signed up because she's texting me. She's saying, "Should I also pick up the for sale by owner option?"
Heck yeah.
I'm like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, heck yeah.
All right.
The other cool thing, Tristan, about this sale that we're doing is you're familiar with our market insights?
I am. It's on the right when you open it up. It gives you is it a seller's market? Is it a buyer's market?
Yeah. I mean, it's all the data that we throw into spreadsheets to try to be market experts, but it's right there, like you said. Anybody who buys anything during this week, they could be a current customer and they add FSBOs to their account, for example. We're giving 90 days of market insights at no charge. So they'll get for the next 3 months, they get 90 days of them. They get market insights for free.
All right.
So it's a pretty good deal.
That is a good deal. And among other many things, I'm pretty sure. So let's get right into this, buddy. The topic of today is how to become the #1 agent in 2022. Yes. I think we both picked that topic because it just sounds like everyone is the #1 agent.
Right.
And we wanted to tackle that. So
yeah, heck yeah.
But I know that you have some specifics when it comes to becoming the #1 agent.
Right? Yeah. Yes, I have a few things that I want to talk about. The thing is there's nothing extraordinary, right? Like the very best agents out there, they just do the normal, simple things, and they just do it really, really well over and over and over and over. Yeah. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, this industry and any other really is people try to reinvent the wheel. They want to come up with the new fancy way of being successful, when in reality, it boils down to a lot of the basics. And so that's what we're going to talk about. Some of the few basics that people need to get back to.
All right. I like the basics. And before we get going fully, I just want to share a little bit too, stories, because you see, we run this whole big Facebook group, so we get to see everything
right
on the real estate world. And it's also interesting to note that some of the most amazing agents out there have been doing the same thing over and over and over 20 plus years and getting amazing results. And all they do is they just tweak little things every year. And I've noticed this because I get to interview them, and so do you, man. So do you. So it's cool to see. I want to know where you go on this. So So Tyler and I haven't talked before, so this is all going to be new to me. So I want to know, man, let's start with the activities, unless you want to start somewhere else, but
no, it's totally fine.
let's start with the activities that you see top producers do, or even continually do, that produce them amazing results. What are those activities? And are they the same activities in 2022?
Yes, I think that the same activities we saw people find success with in 2021 are going to be the things that carry over to 2022. And this is going to sound like a biased answer to the first question here, but I think the number one activity that people have to be focused on is prospecting. And prospecting is, we'll use that as a broad term because there's a lot of different ways to go out there and find new business from new clients. But that is the key to building a business and building a database. We all want to be the agent that has a database that's deep enough to just have enough business walk in the door every single year that we don't have to work for it. We all want to get there. And there are some agents that have gotten there, and that's amazing. But the truth is, until we're there, we have to focus on prospecting. We have to focus on continuing to generate new business from new contacts.
What does prospecting look like? Is it just generating new transactions from people you've never talked to, or is it a combination of talking to the people that you've talked to, haven't talked to?
So yeah, so I said it's a broad term, and that's the truth. And depending on who you talk to, they're going to say, well, prospecting is just picking up the phone, or prospecting can include all of my social media efforts and all of that. And I think that for this conversation, for me, there's a proactive aspect that comes into it. So to answer your question, Tristan, who you're prospecting to is less important than the activity, right? And so because let's talk about our sphere for just a second, right? There's something that great agents who leverage their sphere of influence do really, really well. And it's that they prospect to their sphere of influence. And they may not call it that, right? Some people might not go, well, I prospect to my sphere of influence, but it's the act of staying top of mind with somebody to make sure that when that person's ready to transact, that we are the agent that they want to do that with. And too often, and I know that you've seen this, too often we close a transaction and then there's zero communication with that person ever.
That's
right?
That's actually the plan for most agents for 2022.
I lost your audio for just a second. Say that one more time.
I said, that's actually the plan for most agents for 2022. Let's close on a transaction and not reach out to them for the rest of the year.
Yeah, well, and the thing is that everybody knows they should be following up with their sphere and leveraging that, but so few people have any type of system in place to be able to do it efficiently. And there's solutions out there, right? There's all kinds of drip campaigns and CRMs that'll help you to follow up with people in the right time. But even just a spreadsheet to say, here's everybody that I called today, and here are the people that I haven't talked to in 6 months, and I need to reach out to those people. Even that is better than nothing at all. And I think so. I think for a lot of people, the challenge is, where do I even start, right? What is it that I even do to begin prospecting to my sphere?
All right, I like that. Now, let's level that up though, because we're talking about becoming the number one agent in 2022. How do we achieve that in prospecting? What does that look like? Because I know from going deep into online leads, because that's where I originally blew up in, it wasn't like, hey, here's $1,000 or here's $2,000 or even $3 in online leads. It's more like, here's $40,000 a month, $50,000 a month. I went all in order to get results that I got, right? Multi-millions. And I'm assuming it's the same thing when we're looking at prospecting. It's not just like, hey, I'm going to call for an hour today, right? What does this really look like if we want to be the number one agent using this method?
That's a really good question. It comes down to consistency. It comes down to time and consistency. Is prospecting in any form, I think a lot of times, Tristan, is like, it's the filler activity that people do when they don't have anything else to help them feel busy, right? Too often people go, man, I've run out of things to do today that I feel busy doing. So I guess I could get on the phones, right? When in reality, it needs to be something set on the schedule in advance. And that needs to be sacred time. That needs to be time that is not anything that loses priority. I mean, it's got to be the number one priority, is building the business. And so, I mean, if we want to get really tactical, I think that creating a schedule for prospecting is one of the things that if people don't already have that in their calendar and as part of their business plan for 2022, which business plans should already be written, right? We should be executing on that already. But if that's not part of it, people need to go back and reevaluate 2022 and what their business plan looks like to make sure that prospecting is set aside every single day or every single week at the very least, to make sure that that time is sacred and devoted to prospecting.
So it has to be in the calendar. How many hours are we looking at here? And you said something at the very beginning, or towards the beginning, you said who you prospect isn't as important as doing it. And I totally agree with that, because we say the same thing when it comes to social media. It's like, they're like, well, where should I go? Should I go to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube? I'm like, look, at the point you're at right now, it doesn't even matter.
Right.
You just need to go and do it.
Right.
Once you do it so much, then you can ask that question, right?
Yeah. I mean, once you build a system, then you start to tweak it. Like you said, you're just tweaking things. You analyze the results, and then you make small tweaks to try to make single percentage increments, right? I mean, we don't ever improve our business 100% at a time, right?
You can't.
It's the 1%, it's the 0.5% improvement that you see over a consistent period of time. So yes, who you're prospecting to is less important than actually putting that time on the calendar and making sure that it's devoted. So you asked how often should people be prospecting?
Yeah, how often?
At the very least, it should be an hour a day. And the very best, and depending on what type of prospecting you're doing, so I'm going to speak to the types of prospecting that RedX does and what RedX provides, because that's what I know really well. But if you're picking up the phone and you're prospecting to things like expireds and for sale by owners and geo leads, and you're doing neighborhood searches and campaigns that way, your very best hour for connecting with homeowners is the 8 o'clock hour in the morning. Statistically, that's when people are answering the phone the most, is between the hours of 8 and 9 in the morning. And so if you're not devoting that time to reaching out to the people that you would like to list their homes, you're missing a huge opportunity, because statistically speaking, Tristan, expireds and FSBOs are going to list with the first or the second agent that they speak to. That's the statistic. Over 30%, over a third of them, so 37% are going to list with the first or second agent that they speak to. So if the most productive hour is 8 o'clock, and you're not prospecting during that 8 o'clock hour, you're missing more than a third of the expireds and for sale by owners just based on the clock.
Dude, there's a really good thing you said there. When we were calling expireds heavy, and Jake is listening. Jake's actually the one running the back end here, but he remembers because he was sitting right next to me calling expireds. The thing is, with expireds, we realized that expireds were picking up mainly around 8 a.m. to 8:30, that we bombarded them at that time. And we stopped at 8:30, like on the dot, because we realized that for us, okay, this is for us, at 8:45, it was almost too late. They had already been called so many times, and they were just emotionally drained. It's like, who the hell put you on like that type, right? But if it was 8:05, 8:10, you may have been like second, third, fourth call, and you can still talk to people and connect with them. And so we were only doing it for 30 minutes, but every day continuously, deep. And it was like a mess load of us. So, dude, really good point on that. And I think morning is extremely important.
Yeah, it's crucial. And knowing, right, this comes down, and this could be a whole nother webinar by itself, but knowing your numbers, right? And really being able to analyze the numbers in your business, because it's all a numbers game. Right? Everything comes down to what are the numbers, and then leveraging those to create consistency in our business. And so if you don't know that 8 o'clock hour is the most productive, then you begin to miss out on transactions that could have easily fallen in your lap or come into your business simply with a little bit of effort. And so on that note, talking about putting that in your schedule, I set an hour at the right, a minimum of an hour a day. But if somebody's a newer agent and they don't have a very deep database and they have time in the day, that could easily be extended to 2 to 3 hours a day consistently throughout the next year. You could do that for the next 5 years and get to the point where you have 5,000 people in your database. And at that point, 5,000 is a number that'll start to produce pretty consistently. But you got to put those people in that database by building those relationships, and getting on the phone 2 to 3 hours a day is a really, really good way to do that.
That's true, man. Now we're talking about becoming the #1 agent, right? In 2022, you're not going to do it with an hour a day.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
You're not going to do it with 2 hours a day. You're probably not going to do it with 3 hours a day. You might start doing it with 4 hours a day. But if you really want to break through, I'm talking, dude, 6-7 hours a day. When I first started, Tyler,
yeah,
in real estate, it was a combination. So I come from a telemarketing background. And when I first started, I knew what it took. I'm like, hey, I need to go out and do this. So I planned ahead. I'm like, I got my license very first day. I went out and door knocked for 6 hours, right? Because this isn't going to just be like, oh yeah, an hour here, an hour. No. This is my new life. Door knocking became my new life. And then calling became my second life. Right. And yes, I became the #1 agent in the whole county. Right. But it takes that much effort. Now, if you're like, I can be number 10, number 20, that's okay. Right. But we're talking about #1. We need to put in those hours that are equivalent to receiving that. And dude, minimum 4 hours a day. Minimum.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen overnight, right? I mean, this is something that takes weeks, months, years of consistency to build your business to that point where you can assuredly claim the #1 spot of #1 agent, right? But leveraging those hours at the right time is crucial. So I mentioned that 8 o'clock hour, right? I mean, if you spend time in the morning, that's great. The 8 to 9 o'clock hour is best. This, statistically speaking, the second best hour of the day to be on the phones, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And so if you know that and you go, great, I'm gonna devote time in the morning and time in the afternoon to my prospecting, that's crucial information to have. Another really, really amazing time prospecting, Saturday morning before noon and Sunday after 6 p.m. Right? Typically, I don't encourage weekend, right? I think that everybody needs a really good schedule. But if you have a day off in the week where you're saying, hey, Wednesday is the day that I take off, and then Saturday is a day that I devote to prospecting, Saturdays before noon is an amazing time to prospect because people are home, people are not at work, and they're answering their phone far more likely than they would at noon on a weekday. And so knowing the times a day is just as crucial as the time that you put into it. To make sure that you're leveraging those hours as best you can, because I can work for 8 hours really hard, but if I can work for 6 hours really smart and have that be more productive than 8 hours, then that's a good thing.
I think that's a true statement, man. I think the challenge we see, though, is that people overthink the process of just doing it. Going back to your original statement, who you prospect to isn't as important as doing it.
Yes.
Right. But there's a time, and it's going to happen the more you do it. There's a time when that actually shifts. When you're like, okay, now I'm actually in the habit of doing this 4 to 5 hours a day. I've got it. I know it's going to be 8 to 9 and maybe again around 12 to 1 or whatever. And then again from 4 to 6, right? So now you've got 4 hours and now you're doing it. And now you're thinking, well, hold on. And this is from personal experience. Now you're thinking, wait a second. You know, that time I called at that time, I found a lot more people home.
Yes.
Who was I calling? And then you start looking when we started farming, right? And calling, we're like, who lives here? Then we started looking at the demographic.
Yes.
And we're like, wait a second. We have a lot older people living here and they picked up in the morning. Right. But then you called over here and the younger families, they didn't pick up in the morning. They were picking up 4 to 6. And so then it becomes important and you're like, okay, I'm going to target this area. Let's start doing it at this time. But that happens at a later time. So dude, I'm going back to that because it's so important.
Yeah, and it is important. And I think that, as I mentioned, knowing the numbers in your business, right? That's crucial stuff. And then as you segment the different channels of business that you have, right? Because the numbers prospecting expireds are going to be different than the numbers prospecting to geo leads, for example, right? The amount of calls you make, the contacts, the conversion of contacts to listing appointments, and then again, listing appointments to contracted listings. Those are going to be different with expired listings as they are with geo leads, and geo leads are going to be different than your online lead sources, and that's going to be different than your DMs through Instagram. And so you have to start to analyze and break that down, and that's where somebody starts to find a niche, right? Is they start to go, you know what, I'm really good at FSBOs. I'm really good at that. And so then you go, well, what time can I take away from something else that isn't converting and devote to added FSBOs, assuming there's enough leads, right? And that's when people start to specialize and get really, really good, and really start to transition to whatever the next level is that we're trying to get to, right?
I think that is the key, man. One thing that was brought up in a coaching call for me was I was coaching this team, and they were bringing in an ISA, and they're producing like over 300 million. All right. So it's a pretty massive team. And the ISA is like, hey, you know what? He's not doing that great. And I thought of you guys because you have this great tool that people don't even use. And I think this needs to be part of, look, if you're going to be calling 4 to 5 hours a day for the rest of your real estate life for 2022, because you want to be the number one agent, then you've got to use this tool. And that's the just regular phone line. It's like the Batman red line phone you've got, Tyler. And I'm going to call it up, and I'm going to pick like, do you want to go easy on me, medium, or hard? And I always choose hard because that's the fastest way I learn, right? So go hard on me. And now I call up, and I don't even know who picks up the phone, Tyler, but they're really good. And now I'm being trained, and now I feel more comfortable making the calls, right? So tell me about that.
So yeah, so you're talking about our role play system, which takes me to the next point, right? So we didn't talk beforehand, but that was a really good segue to the next part of what I wanted to talk about, and that's what to say, right? I mean, that's one of the biggest things when I talk to somebody who's hesitant to get on the phones, even with their sphere of influence. They go, yeah, but I'm not afraid to pick up the phone. I just don't know what to say, right? That's a massive hurdle that people have to overcome. And so you're talking about our role play system. I typically recommend when people are starting to prospect to any type of new leads, right? This could be people coming in through your DMs. This is your sphere of influence. This is expired listings. You have to have a script, and you have to stick to it. It doesn't even really matter what script it is, right? If you get on the phone and bark at somebody, eventually somebody's going to list their home with you if you bark really, really well, right? And so as long as you've got something that you're sticking to and become really good at, that makes a tremendous difference in the conversion. But you're talking about our role play system, which is so cool. When we set this up, Tristan, we were so excited. We still are excited about it, because one of the challenges of role play and practicing your scripts is often there's inconsistency within a given role play, right? So let me give you an example, right? If you and I are role playing, and I'm playing the part of the homeowner, but I'm just making it up as I go, it becomes really easy for me to create inconsistencies in the experience for you, because I don't have a real experience to pull from. I'm just making it up as I go. And so what we did is we tried to tackle that. When we created the role play system, we created these personas. And so we would have a for sale by owner, and there's a whole backstory behind that for sale by owner, and why they're moving, and what's motivating them, and where they're trying to go, and what their end goals are that they're trying to accomplish. So when you get on the phone with somebody here in our office, Tristan, so that you can practice that role play, they're pulling from one of these personas. So they actually have a story that they're trying to tell, that your script is hopefully trying to get out of them. And it creates this really, really consistent and positive role play experience that you don't often get in other places, because nobody's put that much thought into creating a character. And so then we record that phone call. Like you said, you get to pick how difficult and how hard we go on you. But then we record that, and we send it to who that person. They have the recording. They can share that with their coach, their trainer. They can go back and listen to it, which is really hard to do, but really, really crucial, right? When you look at any professional athlete, right? If you look at an Olympian who's doing a gymnastics routine, they film and watch their own film over and over and over, because getting outside of ourselves is often the best thing that will help us to improve our event, right? In this case, our listing presentation or our prospecting routine.
Dude, that makes a lot of sense. I think that right there is part of becoming the number one agent of 20. So now you're doing minimum 4 hours, okay? Because there's no way I'm going to do 1 hour of prospecting.
Right.
Hell no. Minimum 4 hours. The next is continual practice, right? When I'm looking at practice, I'm looking at actually analyzing the things that I'm saying. And that's how we, over the years, changed from, and yes, we started with the scripts that everybody gets, right? And then because we were paying attention and we were going back to the footage, right? Listening and realizing, hey, this isn't connecting with people, right? We've got to approach it differently. So we created our own scripts based on that. Then we looked at times. Now it was important for us. Who are we calling? What time are we calling? Right. And then all of a sudden things started producing even more, right? Because we were saying better things. We were connecting with people at the right times, right? And we were converting at a high rate, and people on our team were happier. So that needs to happen, and it needs to be on your schedule. So not only just prospecting 4 to 5 to 6 hours a day, but you've also got to take time to analyze what you just did, what you just said, right?
Yeah, and typically when somebody's brand new in the industry or brand new to a new channel of business, I'll usually tell them that, look, you need to be spending 60-hour increments at least 3 times a week to practice. And that's outside of the actual time that you spend on the phones, right? This is standing in front of the mirror and analyzing your body language as you're practicing your listing presentation, or listening to those recordings of you doing your role plays, and sometimes doing it over and over and over and over again to make sure that you go, you know what, it sounds best when I say it this way, with this intonation and this emphasis. And then when you practice that in real life, then you take that back and you analyze it. You go, well, I changed this emphasis, and here's the results that I'm now getting from that, right? And it becomes a really efficient machine that just gets better and better and better and better. And that's key to being the number one agent. That's key is those 1% increments that we do over and over and over to improve, to be really good at what we do.
That's very true. I want to share with you my screen really quick, because there's a great article that I saved just for this. And I'm going to put it up in the link too, in the chat. And Jake, can you grab it and put it into the Facebook group too? This one is, well, here's the title. It's by HubSpot, and it's the best times of day to make a sales call in 2021. So, we're still in 2021 and it's relevant data. I think it was Gong. Yeah, it was Gong, study done by Gong. And here's the cool part. Well, there's a whole bunch of other stuff, but I want you to take a look at this right here. Best time of day to call, right? 4 to 5. But look, the runner up, dude. I mean, there's other ones down here, but in the afternoons, 3 to 4, 4 to 5 makes sense, right? And then 9 to 10, 8 to 11, right? All of a sudden, this is your respective time. So I'm not saying, hey, you're in Pacific and I'm calling Eastern right now. Right. Best days to call Wednesdays and Thursdays. So I thought that was interesting. And then it gets into some scripting. Hey, always ask if it's a good time. Don't just jump into it, which also goes into the whole Chris Voss. Do you remember Chris Voss? Never Split the Difference, right?
Yep. Great book.
He says, always ask, is this a bad time, right? Is this a bad time? And then they'll be like, yes or no. And then you go into it. Let me put the link in there, Jake, and you can share that in. But Tyler, this is the stuff that I love going into, because nobody takes the time to look and say, well, are we even approaching it right after we're doing it?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's crucial to have that feedback loop. And I think that's one of the things that we overlook as being a crucial part of our business in real estate, is we overlook too often the feedback loop that that we get from our clients, right? I mean, how often are we reaching out to our clients after we close a transaction and go, how was it? What could I have done better? Right? What could I do next time to make sure that I'm your real estate agent, right? Where's the feedback loop in our business to make sure that we're improving every single year in our business as long as we stay in?
There is none. There is no loop.
Right.
Right. So far we've got minimum 4 hours a day prospecting, right? And doesn't matter who at the beginning. Next, we've got analyze, get into the habit of looking through what you just did and how you're executing it, right? Now I'm looking at, okay, well, can I look back to see if I can even make better can I make these calls better now, right? Should I even be calling who I'm calling in comparison to over here? Maybe I should be focusing on expireds for sale by owners, circle prospecting. What does this even look like, right? Different farm area. So that's now getting to where I would like to get to. Here's the part that we all miss. As I'm making these calls, if you want to become the #1 agent, and it's going to take more than a year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe it takes 4, right? By the way, it took 2004, 2005, 2006. It took me 4 years for my county. Yeah, this is recorded. It'll go on our YouTube channel too. And so check out LabCoatAgents YouTube channel. But here's the thing. When I'm looking at this, we're missing a big part that a lot of agents miss, because this is extremely important. As we're growing and growing, we're also now putting into effect the piece that allows us to now treat this like a business. And that's your database. Like people, Tyler, I'm calling you and you're like, oh, it was great talking to you. And you're super friendly. And I never call you again. Like, what the hell just happened?
Yes.
I just wasted 10 minutes talking to somebody that I was starting to create a relationship with that I'm never going to follow up again because I suck. Right? No, you don't want to do that. Right? You want to connect with those people because they're going to someday either refer someone to you or be the one that transacts, buying, selling, leasing, whatever. And it's not like you have to put them in and call them and nurture them. You can have the automated sequences in your database do that, right? Whether it's, we live in a world when we can remarket. Tyler, I don't ever have to talk to you again, but I can let my systems do that for me.
Right.
Right. And that's the part that we all miss. Like, I spent so much money on RedX, so much time calling 4 hours, 5 hours a day. And the people that I talk to, I'm not putting into my database. That's like a waste of life.
So I know that you know Kent Brown, who has done a lot for RedX, and he's been on a few of these webinars. He and I did one of our prospecting boot camps a couple of weeks ago, and he and I were talking. This is Kent's second full year in the industry, third year in the industry. So he's been working full time now for almost 2 full years. He's going to close over 60 deals this year, over 45 of them coming from prospecting. And in a conversation that he and I were having, he said, you know what, if I could do a better job following up with each person that I'm connecting with as I'm prospecting, he goes, if I did a better job, I would double my transactions in my sleep. All I have to do is follow up better, is build a better, deeper database. And the truth is, Tristan, I don't know of a better, faster, and more inexpensive way than using the tools that RedX provides to build that database. So your experience of 4 years is typically what I'll tell people is I'll say, look, if you're brand new in the industry, you're 4 to 5 years to get to the point where your business is really humming, right? It takes time to build it, but once it does, right, then you have this predictable and consistent business that continues to grow. But building that database is crucial, and following up with those leads and those contacts is crucial.
Building the database is the key. And as you're building this amazing company business that you're building, the other part to this is remembering that you can't do it all alone. Like, I can't do this alone. I need to start bringing in people. I need to start bringing in people where I'm noticing there is either an opportunity. That's what I look for first. or I have a massive weakness, right? And that's where you start plugging them in. Look, if I'm calling 4 to 5 hours a day, and I love doing that so much, but I love calling 4 to 5 hours a day, maybe just listed, just sold, right? And I was doing pretty decent in expireds and for sale by owners. And then I'm like, well, I haven't been calling those. Maybe I should hire someone or bring them in, right? To now do that, because all I seem to be focused on is what you guys call geo leads, right? The just listed, just sold, because I love and thrive on those. But I don't want to drop the ball over here. Now I'm building a business. Who else can I bring on? What else can I leverage, right? In-house, VA, what does this look like? Admin, TC, then you start building up the team, right? That's exactly what happened to us. You've got to just pay attention to those things. And you're not going to be paying attention if you don't take time to look back at not only what you're saying, but the opportunities that you're missing.
Yeah, so it's a challenge for most people. I totally agree with you, right? And it's a challenge for most people to relinquish control, right? A lot of times we go, well, I want to be in control of every aspect of my business. So I want to have all the conversations. I want to send all the text messages. I want to fill out all the comps. I want to do it all. And in reality, a number one agent is their time is too valuable for many of the activities that they need to be involved in. And so what you're saying is, yeah, they hire people out that can specialize in that part of the business and build a thriving business, build a company around helping people transact in real estate over and over and over again.
Dude, that's how you scale, right? So you figured it out. It takes 4 to 5 hours minimum, right, of prospecting a day. This is for number one agents. Number twos, I don't care. Number one, right? 4 to 5 hours a day. Then the next thing is you analyze. You analyze what you expect to happen. If it's not happening, well, figure out why, right? Keep on looking. Keep on looking. Who are you calling? What are the numbers? Analyze, track. Then the next thing is you start scaling by bringing in the right people, bringing in the right tools, the right tech to make it happen, right? That's how, and then guess what? You start repeating, because now you're bringing in the right people, and guess what you're going to be teaching them? You're going to be teaching them how to prospect and how to succeed, right? And then you're going to be teaching them, hey, have you been taking a look at those numbers? Are you saying the right things to the people you want to connect with, right? And then you hire more people. Why? Because they're getting amazing. That's where we're at right now. We have some amazing agents. And guess what we're looking at? We're going to hire people to help them out, right? This is how you scale.
Yeah, great leaders, Tristan, are not always great at the individual tasks that need to be done, right? They're really great at coaching, motivating, inspiring the individuals who are really good at those. And that's what we want to get to, right? We want to get to the point where we have a team of individuals, and we've got our ISAs that are really fantastic at prospecting. We've got our transaction coordinators that are really, really good at what they do. And then our job becomes, let me inspire and motivate my team, and then work face-to-face with the clients where my time is most valuable.
Dude, I love the transition, by the way. I love how we didn't rehearse this and it came out
right.
It's so good, because now I'm thinking, so I got to interview this guy named Jim Harder. And I think you've heard of Jim Clifton, who wrote Strength Finders 2.0. Well, Jim Clifton and Jim Harder work together. They run the Gallup polls for the nation. And Jim Harder wrote a book called It's the Manager, Moving from Boss to Coach. And I'm like, dude, that's exactly what you just said.
Yes.
The challenge is that as we're scaling and growing and becoming the number one agent, right, wherever that is, some of us never transition from being the boss, right, that manager, to the coach. And if that doesn't happen, you're not hitting your potential.
Yes.
Right? You get stuck, and that transition needs to happen at some point. So really, really good point that you brought up, Tyler. And for those of you listening in, the book is called It's the Manager by Jim Clifton and Jim Harder. So pick that one up. It's pretty good.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think some people stop working on themselves, right? Is we get so good at managing the minutia that sometimes we forget to step back and go, what's the next step for me? What's the next step for what are the bigger, better goals that I should be trying to attain that I'm currently not? And that's where we all want to get, right? We all want to get to the point where we can sit back and have a machine that we can see all the moving parts and see how they're all working together, and then just focus on the ones that are the weakest link and bring those up to the next level. And that's like you said, that's where we're trying to get to. We want to get to become a coach. We want to inspire and motivate.
The key to that, though, because now I love how we've scaled it, right? So the key to that, though, as you transition from being the manager or the boss to this inspirational figure that's a coach that's now leading, visionary, the key to that is you continually have to be working on yourself and know that it's just a never-ending journey on yourself, right? You probably aren't the greatest at leading right now, and it's only going to incrementally get better because you're going to suck at a lot of things, and you're not going to know the answer to a lot of those things. But the point is that you always have to be looking for opportunities to work on yourself. And what does that mean? Tyler, I'm going to answer it first, and then I'm going to go to you. What does that even mean to work on yourself? For me, it looks like, well, definitely when we're talking about the self, it's got to be emotional, because we see a lot of crazy real estate agents. Amen. I don't even know how they function as real estate agents, but they're out there. Okay. Amen. Emotional for me is one. Mm-hmm. Number two is mental meaning learning, always looking to see what type of knowledge they can gain to be able to grow. Right. That's number two. Number three is spiritual, whatever that looks like to you. And number four is health meaning what you eat physically, right? That's how I think of when I think of, well, if I want to level up, right? And I want to be this now coach or visionary leader, I need to work on those things. What do you think?
So it's funny that you say that, because so I have 4 sons, and the 4 areas that my wife and I try to help those boys with is intellectual, social, physical, and spiritual. So what you just said, those are the 4 areas that my wife and I, that we proactively try to help our kids with and help ourselves with. One of the things that I've always told my kids, I've said, look, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Yeah. You've got to surround yourself with people who dream bigger and accomplish bigger and better things, because that's what will get you there. And the truth is, those people that accomplish amazing things, Tristan, typically are the most humble, because they've learned that they still have a long way to go. Right. And those are the people that I like to be around, is the people that dream bigger and better and execute bigger and better than I do, because then what do I have to aspire to?
Very true, man. Very true. I think that's where we get to the point where, like, okay, we've gotten to be the number one agent, right? But what if we can do better? Right. And then that's when we start connecting with other people outside of our areas to see, well, what are they doing differently that I can learn from? Right. And it takes a phone call. It takes a lot of humility. Right. And knowing that you don't know the answers to everything. So, dude, I love the full cycle of this.
Yes. It worked out, didn't it?
It did, man. And I think the number one thing is that if you're just calling an hour, it ain't going to work.
Right.
It's going to work, but it's not going to work to be the number one agent.
Right.
So,
yeah. And the truth is, yeah. Amen. Right. There's gotta be time spent building something if you want to have something worth having. It takes time.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. All right, Tyler, just in case we have people joining in late on this one, what's the special? And we'll wrap it up with that.
Yes. This is the last sale of the year. So again, this is the last opportunity until Cyber Monday, 2022. So another 11 months. Everything is on sale. So regardless of what you buy, you're going to get at least a 20% discount. You can get up to 32%, and that's a lifelong discount. And anything you buy, we're going to give you a 90-day free trial for our market insights. So all of that information to help you be the expert in every specific zip code that you're working in.
All right. I know Jake just put up the link. I also put up the link to the book. It's The Manager. And I also put up the link to the study that we did, and this is recorded, so it'll go on our YouTube channel, LabCoatAgents. And of course, Tyler Fenn, related to Curtis Fenn, but the more handsome brother.
That's right.
And this is with RedX. Have a happy new year. Hopefully we helped you out with a good plan here and a good outline. Thanks, Tyler.
Thanks, Tristan.
Thanks, everybody.